ToArray, ToList, ToHashSet, ToDictionary, ToLookup, copy to data table. These are all methods that convert the results of a LINQ query into different collection types or structures. In this video, we are going to dive deep into the first three. ToArray, which converts results into an array. ToList, which transforms them into a list. And ToHashSet, which creates a hash set, automatically removing any duplicates. We will explore when and why to use each through practical examples. In subsequent videos, we will look at the other methods and their unique purposes. But first, let's review the LINQ process, which has three main parts: input, query, and output. Think of LINQ like a factory line. We start with the input, where we grab our raw materials, data from arrays, lists, tables, or from other data sources. Next, in the query phase, we shape our data, filtering and ordering it, or changing its form. At this point, our data is in the form of an IEnumerable collection, which is just the right type for LINQ to work its magic. Finally, we get to the output. This is where we get our finished product, the final data in the form we need, like an array, a list, table, or other collection types. It's important to know about this last step, because it's all about how we want to use our data after we have processed it. So, the methods ToArray, ToList, ToHashSet can be used in the output phase to convert the output of the query to a specific form. But these methods are not only to convert the output of the query. Sometimes we need to convert a collection inside the query to another type. To do that, we also can use these methods. In general, these conversion methods are to convert an IEnumerable of T collection to another collection type. For example, IEnumerable of integer to array of integer. IEnumerable of data row to list of data row, and so on. This is what these methods are for. Let's now start with the first method, ToArray. It creates an array from IEnumerable of T. This method has only one overload. So, it can be used only in this way. We have the sequence we want to convert, which is of type IEnumerable of T. And then we use the method. The result will be an array of T type. For example, if we have IEnumerable of integer, the result will be array of integer. IEnumerable of string will be converted to array of string. IEnumerable of data row will be converted to array of data row. And so on, we will get an array of the same type, what we already have in the IEnumerable collection. Let's check the following example to understand the method. I have the following list of integers, that contains different numbers. Suppose I want to get an array of integer, that contains only the numbers that are smaller than 7. To do that, I can use the following query. First, I have the data source with the method as enumerable. Here I am converting the list to IEnumerable of integer. After that, I used where method to filter the list. The result of this method will be the following collection. It's of type IEnumerable of integer and contains only the numbers that are smaller than 7. At the end, I used ToArray method in this way to convert the collection to array. So, the output will be the same collection, but the type will be an array of integer. That's all about ToArray method. Let's move on to the second method, ToList. It creates a list of T from an IEnumerable of T. It has only one overload and can be used as following. The sequence we want to convert, then the method. The sequence must be of type IEnumerable of T. The result will be a list of T. ToList works exact the same such as ToArray method. Let's take the same example. Here is the list of integers, and also the query. I used ToList method instead of ToArray method. So, the result will be the following collection, and it's of type list of integer. As you can see, here I had a list as input, and I converted the output also to list. But in the previous example, I had a list as input, but I converted the output to array. So, it's not mandatory to have the output in the same type as the input. The main point here is that we convert an IEnumerable collection to another collection type. That's all about ToList method. Let's move on to the third method, ToHashSet. It creates a hash set of T from an IEnumerable of T. This method has two overloads. The first one is without any parameters. We only have the sequence we want to convert, then the method. The sequence must be of type IEnumerable of T, and the result will be a hash set of T. The second overload is used with a comparer. So, we have the sequence with the method, and a comparer inside the braces. An example for comparer is the following string comparer. The comparer is used to compare the keys, for example ignore case for string elements. Here the sequence must also be of type 𝗵 of t, and the output will be #set of t. Let's check the following example to understand the method. I have the same list of integers again, and the same query, but I use 𝗏HashSet here. The result of where method will be the following collection of type 𝗵 of integer. As mentioned before, 𝗏HashSet converts the collection to #set of t. So, the result should be the following collection, which is of type #set of integer. But this result is wrong. I explained #set in a previous video, that #set is a unique collection, or in other words, it stores only unique items. This means, it removes duplicates automatically. In other words, it's not only to convert an 𝗵 collection to #set, but also to remove duplicates. So, the correct result is the following collection, which is of type #set of integer. Here we don't have duplicates anymore. You have to keep that in mind, that #set not only converts the sequence to #set, but also removes duplicates, in case there are duplicates in the sequence. This feature is very helpful to remove duplicates in a very easy way. Let's check the following example, where I can use this feature in a real use case. Suppose I have the following array and I want to remove the duplicates and get the output again as an array. To do that I can use the following query. First I use the method 𝗏Hset, which converts the 𝗵 of integer to #set of integer. The result until this point will be the following sequence. As you can see, we don't have any duplicates now. But I want to have the result as an array again, therefore I use ToArray method. The result will be the same sequence, but of type array of integer. In this way I remove the duplicates without using many different methods or writing a complex query. You may ask yourself, how I use ToArray method with a sequence of type #set of integer. I mentioned, that the sequence must be of type 𝗵 of t, so that I can use ToArray method. That's correct, but because the #set implements the 𝗵 interface, it's like saying, this sequence is of type 𝗵 of t. So, in general, we can use the conversion methods for 𝗵 collections, or for collection types, that implement the 𝗵 interface. This is also how to use more than one conversion method in one query. In the first example, I use the first overload of the 𝗏Hset method. Now let's look at another example to understand the second overload of this method. Imagine we have an array of words, and we want to get a collection of unique words, without any repeats. Here's our LINQ query that converts the array into a #set of string. The result will be a #set of string, which ensures all words are unique. This is the first overload of the method. But what if we don't care about the case of the letters? Say these two words should be considered the same. We can use the second overload of 𝗏Hset for this. I use the following string comparer, which ignores case when it checks if words are the same. Now the result will be the following collection. It's also of type #set of string. This is also how to use the second overload of 𝗏Hset method. I use the three methods in method syntax, but I can also use the methods in mixed syntax. I only use the methods in the examples to convert the output of the query, but I can also use them to convert the data inside the query. So, you can use these three methods in method syntax and mixed syntax. They can be used either inside the query, or after the query to convert the output. In the next videos I will use these methods in many different examples. One last thing I want to mention, that the methods can be also used for equeryable collections. I only talked about 𝗵 interface in this video, but the same applies for equeryable interface. The methods will be used exact in the same way and the result will be also the same. For example, using ToArray method I can convert a collection of type equeryable of t to array of t. That's all about the first three conversion methods.